Hey there. Well, here I am again, James Lowe at the keyboard. I'm at the Yamaha ES8 keyboard, and I've got this thing set up now to play an interesting sound. It's going to do a version of a sound, an instrument called a celeste, and this instrument almost sounds like a toy piano. It's a very interesting sound, and it's a true acoustic version. It's an instrument that looks like a piano, looks like a little upright piano, and has little hammers inside, just like a piano does. But instead of hitting strings, the celeste, which is spelled Celeste, has little tone bars, like a metallophone, like a xylophone, but with metal, and the hammers hit these little bars. And this is the instrument that Tchaikovsky found. He was in Paris, evidently. This is how the story goes. And he heard the celeste being played, and he decided that would be great for his suite that he was working on at the time, which, of course, became the Nutcracker. Of course, the clarinet takes over right after that. So he chose to use that instrument, the celeste, for that sound. And the celeste, in my mind at least, is sort of like the grandfather of an instrument that became very important in rock music and jazz, especially throughout the 60s and into the 70s and beyond. And that's the electric piano. And the concept of an electric piano, there's many different versions of this. There are some that are truly totally electric and just try to imitate piano sounds, but a company called Rhodes invented a piano that was really almost like an electrified celeste. They took that concept of the metal tone bars and the hammers hitting them, and then they electrified it. And I'm sure that there were some other differences. I'm going to have to do some research on this. But anyway, this concept of an electrified instrument with hammers and with that piano touch, so that pianists who had been trained on an acoustic piano could use all the expressiveness in their hands and their dynamic playing, and they could get those expressive sounds from an instrument that didn't use strings but used these metal bars. So here's some examples. So I'm going to give you four songs from the 70s. So you can guess my age, I guess, from my choices of music, but I am going to do lots of other eras, I promise. And also, I'm not going to just do segues forever. Those of you that have been listening to the piano segues that I've been doing, I know sometimes when you hear a section of a song, it's a little frustrating when that song doesn't continue, and you kind of like, well, why did you have to go on to a new song? I really want to hear that whole song. So I promise that I will give you full versions as soon as I can. But in the meantime, so here's an example of an electric piano from the early 70s. And this instrument, you probably will recognize right away, and you'll recognize the song too, I expect. So that was Daniel, of course, the great tune by Elton John. And that features an instrument called a Fender Rhodes. So I mentioned Rhodes piano earlier, and the famous company Fender, of course, famous for their guitars and their amps especially. The company Fender bought out the Rhodes company, and again, I'm going to have to do some more homework on this, exactly how this all went down. And so the instrument became known as the Fender Rhodes piano, so important in the history of popular music, of jazz, and especially rock. And so Elton used a Fender Rhodes for that intro. Now he might have had some tremolo on that, and often the amplifiers, if you bought a Rhodes with its own amplifier, it would have a tremolo effect where the sound would almost sound like it was coming in and out. I hope you can hear that. Sort of like wah, wah, sort of vibrating, right? Maybe Elton had a tremolo on that. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check the recordings. And you can kind of hear that relationship to the celeste I was mentioning earlier. I think, right? You can kind of hear that. And again, we're approximating. The ES8 is a digital keyboard that is able to, with using the replicating the sound waves of the instruments. This does not have the tone bars inside the way a Fender Rhodes did, but because of its advanced technology, it can recreate these sounds very, very well. So here's another song that might have used that exact same sound, or actually, let me tweak this a little bit. This song has another version of a Fender Rhodes. I'm going to spin this wheel and pick another sound. Here's another version of it. And this has an effect on it called a phase shifter, which you may recognize from lots of songs, and especially in the 70s, late 60s. So that's Isn't She Lovely, of course. Wonderful Stevie. So I was about to say Steely Dan. Stevie Wonder tune, which he wrote. And of course, it's his beautiful daughter in the background you can hear on the recording. And there's another Fender Rhodes. This time maybe with a little bit of doctoring up, a little bit of different effects on the sound. I'm pretty sure it's a phase shifter on that one. Here's another song that you know and love, I expect, that maybe this one used a phase shifter as well. Another Fender Rhodes tune. Donald Fagen from Steely Dan used the Fender Rhodes extensively. Tons of Fender Rhodes on those recordings. And I think that's pretty close to the sound. I'll have to tweak that one as well and see if maybe we can get even closer. Here's another tune, and this is the one I'm going to play the whole song of. I will attach that recording subsequent to this one, and I think you're going to enjoy this one. This tune does not start out with the Fender Rhodes. It starts out with an acoustic piano sound. But then the Rhodes comes in, and it's got a really cool, another nice thick phase shifter effect on it. Rolling Stones, Memory Motel. Heartbreaking tune. It's a lovely, lovely Stones song. One of maybe my favorite Stones song. I tend to go for the ballads. I love Angie. There's a lot of Stones songs that I really enjoy, including plenty of the rockers. But the Memory Motel tune starts off on a regular acoustic piano. And it does that for the first half of a verse, and then next thing you know, you're in with the with that doctored up Fender Rhodes. I think Keith Richards is actually playing that. I always thought it was Nicky Hopkins, an awesome studio musician and sometime member of the Stones in a way. I always thought that was Nicky, but I've been reading up. It looks like maybe Keith actually played the Rhodes on that tune. So those are some examples of the electric piano, and I am going to upload a full version of Memory Motel shortly. But I hope you like this discussion of the electric piano. I didn't get into the Wurlitzer, which is another brand of electric piano, and So I could pull up a Whirly really quick, and when I play the Wurlitzer sound, I think right away. Here's one. Maybe this is the best one. There's that Supertramp sound, right? And Roger Hodgson, excuse me, the guy from Supertramp, fan of the Wurlitzer. I think it had a special sentimental thing. I think that was maybe one of his first keyboards, but it also gave them a distinctive sound. So a lot of people use the Rhodes, not as many bands using the Whirly sound, and so the Wurlitzer had its own kind of. Maybe that's a little closer to that sound that Roger used on that song, the Logical Song. Give all credit once again to the original artists and composers. The Logical Song from Supertramp. The other ones I played today, Hey 19 from Steely Dan from their album Gaucho. Memory Motel from the Stones. And also Daniel, Elton John, and Isn't She Lovely, Stevie Wonder. All electric piano songs. And by the way, the Wurlitzer electric piano had a similar concept, right? So it's tone bars inside, sometimes called tines, like the tines of a fork, and each one had an electric sensor. They might have been what's called piezoelectric sensors on there, or potentiometers. I'll have to do some research. I'm not such an electrical engineer, but I'm very interested in that stuff. So I'll see what I can find out about how the Whirlies were hooked up, the Wurlitzers. Wurlitzer, of course, well known as a piano company and organ company, as well as a jukebox company. So you saw, in diners across America in the 50s and 60s, Wurlitzer name was in plenty of jukeboxes and little bars and clubs that had the jukebox would have the name Wurlitzer on it. It was a very esteemed company, but they were quite broad. They built amazing organs, as well as these electric pianos, and of course they had a very nice line of pianos, acoustic pianos as well. So there's my little diatribe on electric pianos. More to come, and again, keep an eye out for that Memory Motel version, which I'm going to do. I'm not sure if I'm just going to do it with that straight electric piano sound all the way through. Had a honey, peachy kind of girl. I don't know why I have so much. I got too much. There we go. Her eyes are hazel, teeth are slightly curled. So I am planning to do that. I may do it just with that sound, or maybe I'm going to do a version where I'll double track myself or triple track with a couple of other sounds mixed in. And I hope you sing along with these things that I record. I would love to think that someone's out there is singing along, but I know I've been doing the segues, so I'll try to give you more full recordings of full songs, and that's going to be coming in the pipeline. Have a fantastic day, and if you have a keyboard at home, play around with some of those electric piano sounds, and we'll talk more about that. All the best. Stay healthy, stay well. Get out and enjoy nature and breathe some wonderful fresh air. And I'll look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye-bye.